ask. I want to talk to Riaad Moosa. It seems that Durban has not had enough of this man. Tickets for his upcoming show, which is on the 6th of May, that's next Friday, have already been sold out. And it's just amazing. This guy, a second show for the 28th of May has now been opened up. So those tickets are available. If you're in Durban, and Durban, no one in Durban buys any tickets for anything. I remember every time there was a concert there, they struggled to like quarter fill it. So it shows you Riaad Moosa has pulling power, man. This guy can entertain anybody. Tickets are available through Ticket Pro for his second concert. Get them now, Durban. If you're listening to me in Durban right now and you miss out on this, it's your own fault. From entertaining fans online with his virtual comedy club to gracing the big screen in his new film, which obviously it's not that new now, but it came out just a short while ago, new material. He has kept us entertained for years. We love having him on this show. And he's here this morning. We're going to do a little catch up with Riaad Moosa. Here he is, looking fantastic in his very, very professional-looking studio. How are you?
It's mainly props. Yes, thank you, Gareth. Thank you. I bought myself all these nice things. I got a roadie. Like, I don't even know what this is called. Right? It's just
a roadcaster. That is called a roadcaster.
Yes. Right? And I've never used it. Right? I think I plugged it in. Right? But it's there as a prop at the moment. Like this mic is going through some other something else.
You are such a fantastic guest. Let me just your sound is good. You've got good lighting. You've got a good camera on you. This is how people should be professional. This is what you do. This is a professional podcast, broadcast, videocaster, this man. What a pleasure it is to work with someone who knows what they're doing.
That's my intention. That's my intention. My intention is to do, I basically set up most of the, just the problem is, it took me 2 years to set this thing up just when the pandemic is over.
But you've
over, right?
So you're going to carry on using it because people aren't going to stop working from home. I mean, it's such a pleasure, right? Now,
exactly.
Have you used it a lot since you set it up, or is this the first time?
No. Actually, I'm really tired. I had to do all these virtual shows for 2 years, performing in this room above my garage, and perform for no laughter. Essentially, perform for the comment section, right?
Yes.
And very often I'm performing for like an hour and a bit, right? Just talking and not being able to see any response sometimes, right? Wow. And it's torturous as a comedian because laughter is actually a social exercise, right? People don't realize how much laughter is involved in the sort of community aspect, because you're 8 more times likely to laugh when you're with people than when you're on by yourself. Yeah. Like how many times people...
Let me ask you something. If you took the laughter out of most comedy shows, you'd probably only have half the material. So if you say you were doing an hour with just you sitting there in the studio, this is amazing. That means you're probably doing twice what a normal hour's show would be.
Yes. Essentially, no, that's what it means. Like, because usually when your material runs out soon, you're dying. Right? On stage. Like that's what would happen live. If I just did my material, right, with no laughter, right, essentially it would feel like a death. Like afterwards, I need to go for therapy. It'd be like a torturous experience. It's like when I start
position in the shower.
Right, exactly. I also guess that's why I love stand-up comedy, because as far as like a performance art is concerned, it doesn't build your ego as much. Because you kept down, right? And in order to be funny, you can't be an elevated person, also, that's why like the best comedians will still go to the dingy comedy club, because they need to be able to relate to the commoners, the commoners.
All right,
whereas musicians...
You started talking about comedy, and I'm glad we are, because it's something that fascinates me. You know that we've spoken about this at length, and I said in the introduction earlier when I mentioned that you're going to be on the show. Last time you came on, it felt like we'd all joined in like Joey's therapy session. So I didn't, because Joey Rasdeen was on, and he's had he's such an open human being. He just talks about everything. and he started talking about how cuck his life had been over the last couple of weeks and months and years. And it turned into a really interesting conversation, but I felt like it was all a big therapy session for Joey. And I felt bad because we didn't really talk to you much at all. You brought up comedy. I love talking to experts, and you know, you're an expert. Not only are you a really, really insightful, thoughtful person about all kinds of subjects, but when it comes to comedy, this is your specialist area. You're like a surgeon in comedy as much as you are in medicine. So you've got a picture of Seinfeld and Chris Rock up there behind you. And that's not by mistake. You would have thought about why to put their pictures up there. Why not, you know, any other comedian? Why those two?
The formative influences in my comedic journey. So when I started doing stand-up comedy, the two guys who are friends, by the way, were
Yes.
most influential, right, in me deciding to be a comedian. Like when I was in med school,
Wow.
essentially I never knew about stand-up comedy until after fourth year medicine. And then I
Jeez.
watched the stand-up comedy
So
show.
anytime you can laugh is after you've done 4 years.
Yeah, no, in essence, like that's when I knew Mark Banks. I'd gone to a Mark Banks show, right? I think I was at one of the shows where he had that issue with the making a joke about the call to prayer, and Pagad sort of tried to attack him, and the poor Mark Banks,
No, but he
most
had to go
lovely
hide.
human
Jesus.
being, had to go and run away and hide. Shame, right? Right, he made a joke about the call to prayer sounding like a mosquito, and why that's why they called mosques, right? And,
Oh no.
look here, right? I think it's hilarious, right? And I think people, I just think, you know, why it became a big thing, because at that time Muslims were on the defensive because
Sure, of course.
of the whole Pagad vibe, and I don't know if that was when the whole terrorism thing became in vogue, so everybody's on the defensive. So, you know, there was a couple of uncles, now we're gonna attack Mark Banks, and he ran away, which was also hilarious. But Mark Banks has always been crazy, you know, like at our stand-up comedy shows, right? You would just walk out of the room and then come back in just with underwear on, right? With one of his like nads hanging out, right? Like one of his nads hanging out, and then we would pick up, like, you know, a bowl of peanuts and then walk around the room. Would anybody like a nut? Right? And then he would leave and come back and not say anything about it.
You're not a head doctor, but I reckon that Mark is properly. He's insane. You know, every time I've ever had an interview with him, he is incapable of focusing on what's actually
Definitely
good.
not.
He's totally
Definitely
about.
not.
He's totally about.
That's why he's brilliant.
No, but he wants to entertain people. He loves entertaining people, but he's totally disconnected from reality. And I
Right.
can see him running away from Pagad. And I can see him going into hiding. And it makes me laugh. It makes me smile on the inside. The guy's a proper genius, but he's totally
Yes,
deluded.
he is.
I mean, he doesn't know what's happening in the world. He's not.
Right.
He
You
doesn't.
can't. I remember once we interviewed him on 5FM. I think it might have been Mark Gilman who interviewed him. And the interview was so disappointing because as a real person, he's like completely serious.
No,
You know?
Really?
I don't. No, I think you're, again, just forgive her. She's drunk. He's not. Riaad, you know him. He's totally crazy, man. He's like that.
No.
He's like this. He's the same in person as he is on stage. He's totally disconnected from reality.
So, yes, and essentially what would happen, it would be a conversation between Mark and I. We'd try somewhat to be serious and have some real connection, and he would like lead it somewhere into fantasy world, and I'm one of the guys who play along. I generally play along. With comedians, I can be the straight man in a sense, where I just keep on feeding you and you go down alternate route. And like, I always enjoy my conversations with Mark Banks. Like when he did the cameo in our movie New Material, Joey and I could not stop laughing with all of his ad libs. It was just like he's a hilarious individual, and I miss him. I don't see him that much, and I don't know how he handled the pandemic, but like I really miss the guy. And whenever and that's why I'm so happy that we slowly opening up. I'm stressed out about the fact that they're still keeping it at 50%, right? Now the only thing that I can formulate, I actually like to speak to Mahdi about this, is why they're doing that. They're being very conservative, waiting for 2 successive low hospitalization waves, right? And then they're gonna open, because I know in America, when at a certain point they go, okay, it's fine now, it's over, and then woo, we're gonna open up, yeah. And then Delta came from India and was like, no, sorry, buddy, sorry, no, nobody, sorry, all right. And then they had to. It was quite a challenging Delta wave.
Again,
But
you're a doctor, and we provided the world with Omicron, which was our way out, because Omicron was much more virulent, but much less deadly. So thank you, South Africa.
Yeah, well, it could spread. That's the whole idea. It must spread and not do any damage, right? And Omicron came out the same weekend as new material. So we had a new variant to go with new material. And I think Omicron won at the box office, which is quite irritating.
Everybody was terrified it would be worse. And then the whole world. Remember, people weren't allowed to leave or come into South Africa because we started the whole thing.
Exactly.
That way. So listen, since we're talking about this pandemic and everything else, I was talking to another brilliant man who happens to be, man, I don't know. There's something about the way Indian parents raise their kids. Hey, so we're talking to Dr. Reza Mia the other day.
Yes.
He's invented this passenger jet, which is like a vertical takeoff and lift thing, and he's busy working on it. And obviously, there are a lot of steps in the process. But we had him on this week to talk about that. Now he's also a doctor. He's a plastic surgeon. But this is a side thing, a side hustle of his. And you've got, I don't know whether your medicine is the side hustle or your comedy is the side hustle, but you're also this person who does these 2 really hard things. Is that because of the way that Indian parents raise their kids? Is that part of it?
I think the artistic, well, I don't know in terms of the duality, but because what he's doing, I guess, is also, first of all, there's a lot of expectations to achieve.
By the way, I don't want to blanket because there's going to be some loser Indian kid right now who's listening to us going, that's not true for me.
Yeah, I'm Indian. It's not like that.
No. Essentially, culturally, there's a lot of expectations to achieve.
Yeah.
Although it may not be specifically said, you just see the behavior, right? And I know his father has done extremely well. And, I just see my father working. Even my father's in his 70s. He still works like longer hours than I do. So it's like you just see a certain behavior, right? And, that tends to help, I guess, in, you achieving certain things. However, there are a lot of negatives, right? Like you can't even, I'm a comedian, but I find it difficult to play.
Sure.
That's weird. And I think that's why I became a comedian, right? To move away, to make my life a little bit more playful. So actually in my older age, right, I've become more playful. But when I was younger, it's like I'm going back. Like when I was younger, I was like super responsible, super conservative, right? All the people who knew me back then, right? It's like at the reverse. And now, so that in my older age, I'm actually becoming more and more playful and engaging with it. But you see, I'm also engaging with play and that mindset from a analytical perspective. So I don't just play because I play, right? I play because scientifically, and I know that there are benefits to adopting this persona, right? In terms of your psychological and mental health. So that's also negative in terms of play, because people actually play, they don't think about that. They just enjoy playing, right? And Hassan Minhaj has got the same problem, right?
Yep.
From the Daily Show. Like he's the exact same, even worse than I am, because he's a first generation. And Trevor has always said that about him. Trevor's always telling him, dude, relax, right?
Yeah.
Relax, you know.
But that only
Also,
comes with age, though.
no,
You
you
know,
see, there's certain people like Trevor. Trevor, one of his gifts, he can actually be in the moment, right? And experience the moment and not need to think about anything in the future. Whereas a lot of people in my culture, we live in the future, right? So and that's a problem. Like I know there's two things. Like that's why I like also spending time with my kids, because kids are present. They are there in the moment. And then you go like, how do you get that? You know, and they force you to be in the moment, right? So it's I don't even know how we got here, but I think
No,
it's the cultural influence definitely that
there is a cultural influence,
inform your behavior.
but there's also that you bring up the age thing, and I think this is interesting too. I sometimes look at some of the things that I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I think, yes, I would never take those risks now. I would never
what,
say
like
those
interview
things.
Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, like all the crazy stuff that I did when I was, just looking for attention, trying to make a difference, trying to get ahead. You do crazy stuff, and now I would never do any of that. I wouldn't even attempt it. It's like you go into um, your comfort zone becomes the drug of choice, and it's not a good one.
Right.
Do
Right.
you feel
Exactly.
do you feel pressure like you're doing the show now, and you've done another movie, and this is part of that drive that I was hinting at when I brought up, Dr. Reza, and I brought you up. And it might be cultural, but it might also just be an effective, like where we're at in our lives, because you and I are probably the same generation. And I
Yeah.
sometimes think there's huge pressure for me to do something new every year. If I don't
Right.
do something new every year, then I'm just resting on my laurels, or I'm going backwards, which is frightening to me. That really scares me.
Right.
That's probably worse than if I hadn't ever achieved anything, because then you've got nothing to measure it up against. And I think about that often, and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Right. So I think what you're talking about is the idea of growth, right? It requires mistakes to be made.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the human experience, because humans progress, right? Lions in 1,000 years are not going to be like, working with tools. They're not going to be like in the Flintstones in a car, right? They're going to be
Catwoman.
lions forever, right? But humans progress, right?
Yeah.
And the way we progress is we try stuff out and we mess up, right? And then we either see someone mess up and adjust our behavior, or we mess up ourselves and adjust our behavior and become better. So all those risky things that you did is just messing up and growing and becoming better, right? Now,
Well,
it starts
I don't know
as
if
when you walk.
do you
It
think
starts
about
when
those
you
people?
walk.
You think of those people who first tried mushrooms, and then how many of them died because they ate the poisonous ones. Or you think about those people who, there was a video someone sent me this week on WhatsApp of a man testing bulletproof glass it was black and white camera footage, but his wife is standing there with the bulletproof glass, and he shoots right at her. And I wonder how many wives died because that was probably his third or fourth wife. How many had to be sacrificed for us to figure out bulletproof glass? That kind of shit only humans do. You're right, Riaad.
Faithful
Right.
wife.
Yeah.
Yes. So and it's your nature that informs your behavior. There are people who are more conservative. There are people exploratory. There are people who don't do anything, just are defensive. There are people who shoot cars into space, right? And buy Twitter, like we're talking about Elon Musk.
Mm.
It's like it's part of your nature, and there are certain people that actually push the envelope, and and you have to do that in order to grow, right? And it's about our species growing, because
Correct.
It's like
we
it's
can
like when
watch
you
other
train your
people.
muscles and your muscle fibers tear apart, and that's what causes you
Right.
pain because they're growing.
Right.
So,
Right.
Riaad,
It's a theme.
I just want to break from that theme for a second, because Sanela's got an urgent medical question, and let's just see if you can
Oh,
help her. Sanela says, guys, what's the best way to avoid a cold sore? I have a shoot on Monday, and I feel like a
oh
cold
God.
sore is developing right now. All of the times, I don't need this. I don't even have the cold. It's not a cold sore, by the way, Sanela, is
Yeah.
not from the
I
cold.
don't
but
have the cold.
It's from herpes
like the
simplex.
there we
the
go. So
consumption.
give Sanele the
Yes.
advice that.
Yeah, look here. There are antiviral ointments you can use, as far as I know.
Or
But
like the
also
pharmacist said to me,
stress.
is it for a small area or is it for a bigger area? Seriously, a pharmacist said that to me.
For people who are
Small?
listening to the podcast, Leigh-Ann is showing with her little fingers. She's showing a small area, as in like you'd hold a coin in your fingers, and then
Like
for
a
a large
lipsol.
area, she's spreading it like a vagina. All right, sorry, I had to explain that because there's nothing worse than people who are listening and they don't see it and they go, "Oh, what are these idiots laughing at?" All right, thank you, Riaad. Thank you. So you don't know. There are some treatments.
Stress, and like, well, sometimes sunlight can also make it like worse. There's some people, they go out in the sun, because it's essentially a cold sore. There's a virus that's living in the nerve in your body, and they're chilling there forever, right? And then when there's stress or when there's ripe conditions, they go, "Woo, let's see what's happening in the world over here," and then your body like sort of fights it back for a while, but you can't like get rid of that. Apparently, that's what I can remember from medical school. Right?
Hey,
just
do you
know,
think-
like, take everything I say with a
I
pinch of
know.
salt. Like,
No,
I'm
you're
as
not-
surprised as you are
Yeah, you're
that
not
I
practicing.
remember something.
Leave him alone. I wanted to throw it in because I thought it was hilarious. That's what some people are dealing with this morning is cold sores. Do you think we'll ever, on this topic of humans advancing and the way that we adapt and we progress, do you think we'll ever get to a point where we can live forever? And would you want that to happen?
Sure. Living forever. Well, essentially, as a species, you hope that you would be able to live forever. So this is the whole idea why Elon Musk, I think, wants to explore space, right? Because he recognizes, the vulnerability of a planet, and he thinks now, like, what? Who will think that, bruh? And actually start doing it, dude. Right? Now we need to become. He says we need to become a spacefaring species.
Yes.
Right? Who gets that idea, bruh? Like, that's, dude, like, everybody feels bad about their aspirations compared to this, bruh. Apparently his roommate feels very inadequate. His roommate in college. I think I saw this Jordan Peterson clip about Jordan Peterson talking about his roommate in college and being such an accomplished individual, like opening, like, I don't know, multiple businesses, being a bajillionaire, but still feeling inadequate because Elon Musk, right, was his roommate. Right? It's this.
Dude.
It's actually madness. I feel bad. Twitter, I was like really my daughter wants a budgie, right? And I was thinking about it, like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. This bruh bought Twitter, right? I'm feeling stupid, like, so inadequate at this moment. Like, and that's why we don't also like these billionaires doing these things now. I think that's why we don't like it. It's because we are all societally feeling very vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
That's why they went to go shoot themselves into space last year, right? Usually I would go, that's a cool thing. But based on the fact that everybody is vulnerable, shooting yourself into space is not a cool thing for people. Especially like it's like Richard Branson going up there with his inspirational speech, like he spoke about. What did he say? He's like, to all the kids out there, I was once a child looking up into the stars with a dream, and now I'm an adult. I'm an adult in a spaceship with lots of other wonderful adults looking down at our beautiful, beautiful Earth. To all the dreamers out there, if we can do this, think about what you can do. I'm like, bruh, I can't go outside the house, bruh. Bruh, I can't. You going? I'm not want to swear, right? But I was like, like proper, like your master, like, And then a week later, this Bezos shoots himself into space with a rocket that looks like a phallus, right?
Oh, yeah.
You saw that, dude.
Big
like
time.
they
Yeah.
had any sort of design. It even had a shaft and at
And
a
it had a
glance. Like it
Yeah,
looked
yeah,
like this. At
yeah.
a glance. The only
Yes.
positive thing, it was its circumcised appearance. That's the
Yes.
only positive thing, right? And they didn't even go into space. They just went to the edge of space, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like he was trying to
They
have
were
a bit of a
edging.
Yeah. They were edging.
intercourse with space, but he put the tip in, right? You know, like it
Just
was
the
like so mind-bogglingly, like the timing of it was bad. It's like it's almost like you know, we gone back to the time of kings, you know,
Yes.
where
Mhm.
the peasants are going like, we're gonna bring out the guillotine here, bruh. Like that's the sort of the feeling, because there's so much opulence, right?
Mm.
The disparity is so big, it just
Yeah.
creates that
Well,
anxiety and
in, so
stress in people.
the funny thing is, you bring up Jeff Bezos. I mean, he bought the Washington Post newspaper a couple of years ago. Nobody complained about that. No one went, "Oh well, I don't know about what this means for free speech." Now
Yeah.
Elon buys Twitter, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, what is happening to free speech?" You know?
Yeah, dude, free speech. My man over there got munged
Oh,
for free speech.
jeez.
Well,
My man.
we've talked about this a million times, but that is just some bullshit, right? If someone tried to do that to you during a
Completely.
comedy show, what would you do?
Yeah.
I'd probably like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
look, yeah, I don't know. I can't understand it. First of all, I don't understand people defending Will Smith, and I'm so disappointed in Will Smith. It's like, because
Yeah.
I was like a proper Will Smith fan. I've been reading his book, and I like completely inspired by this guy, because there's
Yeah.
so many like ways in which his life aligns with mine. It's just at a much higher level, right? And a lot of what he says is very inspirational. But what was very negative for me about that whole experience is it showed how inauthentic he actually is, and how much it just made me feel that he's just a character. And he's whereas um Chris Rock played his part. He was as authentic as they came, right?
Chris Rock.
He was a comedian from the start. Like Will Smith smacked him at the Oscars,
Mhm.
and then he went into funny immediately, right? He could
I
have
think
slapped the funny out of him,
he handled that so beautifully. Like
right?
if anybody came out of that thing well, it was Chris Rock. I
Right.
loved the way he responded.
So with Will Smith, because the pageantry of it is like the Oscars is like look at it's how you look at it, right? Will Smith is either the king, right? And or he's a husband that's been insulted, right? Jada Pinkett is either a weak woman, or she's the queen,
Yeah.
right? So if she's the queen, right, and if he's the king, that's not how they react.
Correct.
Chris Rock
Like
is the
if I
jester.
was her, I would have got up and apologized. I would have walked onto
Yeah.
stage
No.
and apologized on my husband's behalf.
Anybody who has a good wife will know that the wife will have been pulling you down. What are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look here. To be fair, because I love but Chris Rock is the jester in that
Yes.
scenario, and we
Yes.
expected like Will Smith to be the king, and I expected him to behave like the king, even if he were offended, even if he
Yeah.
came out there and he said, "Look here, bro," right afterwards, my
Not like-
wife has alopecia, right? I have to support her constantly all the time. She's very like emotionally distraught by this, right? And you know, this
No.
is not cool or whatever, right? Okay. I'm pretty sure he didn't know about alopecia, because comedians, we want right people to laugh, right? So we know that that thing wouldn't make you laugh if you have a disease, so they wouldn't have known, right? They definitely
that,
wouldn't have known about
she's the
that.
one who's supposedly putting up videos about how she's okay with she's an empowered woman. She loves her baldness. She's into
Right.
like this is the new her. You can't say that and then get upset or let your husband get upset about it. It just seems like bullshit.
On the other hand, but I don't think I can see it's just like you only react like that if you're at the edge, right?
Yeah. No, he's definitely the guy stressed out. He's stressed out beyond belief. And I think maybe
that's
It all just
Yeah.
got to him. I think that there are a lot of very fragile people in Hollywood. That's
Right.
another thing that nobody takes serious. So listen, Riaad, I've got to wrap this up, but we
Sorry.
are thrilled with no. This is great, man. We
Chris
brought you on,
Rock.
we brought you on to talk all about what's going on, and that studio you've got is incredible. And it's great to see you going back on tour. So Durban, are you excited about Durban?
Very much to be performing for a live audience. Right. I'm so excited. It is a bit of a bummer that you have a very big venue, but you can only fill 50%. So that's difficult sometimes because
What about
you
dwarves?
sometimes need the audience to be full in
If we
order
use
for it to
dwarves,
feel full.
if we use dwarves, wouldn't they count for half, and then we could get another 25% in? Surely.
I think so. I
No,
think we're
I
onto
can't.
something. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Okay,
We're
dwarves,
onto something. Yeah.
if you're a
Yeah.
dwarf, try
Little
and get in.
people.
Try
Whole lot
and
of
force your
kids.
way in. Yeah. And
Right.
kids
Yeah.
could go. All right, Riaad,
Exactly.
listen, we got to go, but love you, man, and keep on doing the good work. We will catch up with you again soon. It's always too little time when we have you on.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so
Thanks,
much
dude.
for having me.
All
Thank
right.
you both.
Cheers. There's Riaad Moosa. You can get him at his 2 shows in Durban. The first one's sold out 6th of May, but you can go to the 28th of May. Tickets available through Ticket Pro. Don't say I didn't tell you. All right.